Imagine stepping out onto a really bustling, sun-drenched street in Riyadh or Jeddah today.
Right?
You look around, maybe you're running late for a meeting, or perhaps you're just heading out to meet some friends.
We've all been there.
Yeah, exactly. But if you try raising your hand, like waving down a traditional taxi on the curb, you are going to be waiting a very, very long time.
Oh, an incredibly long time.
Because that entire era, the whole, ritual of standing there, squinting into traffic, hoping an empty cab happens to drive by, it's completely over.
It's vanished. I mean, it's been replaced entirely by a glowing screen in the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
There's this massive, invisible digital infrastructure operating right beneath the surface of the city now.
And that infrastructure is exactly what we're focusing on today. We're taking a deep dive into our sources, which outline the explosive, hyper-competitive world of Saudi Arabia's ride-hailing ecosystem.
It really is explosive.
It is. Our sources map out this really comprehensive market breakdown of the top 10 taxi apps currently operating in the kingdom. We're looking at their unique features, the industry projections, all of it.
There's a lot to cover.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because we are not just talking about a couple of new apps launching in a vacuum here.
No, not at all.
We are looking at a market that seemingly digitized an entire nation overnight. And according to P&S Intelligence, this market is projected to reach an absolutely staggering $12.7 billion by the year 2030.
Wow.
$12 billion.
It is a massive economic pie.
Yeah.
Right. And the speed of this transition is what's truly unprecedented.
Yeah.
But, you can't really understand the apps themselves until you understand the catalyst behind them.
Right, the environment that created them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you don't just wake up one morning and find a population of over 30 million people has spontaneously abandoned traditional street hailing. You need a structural shift.
Uh-huh.
And in this case, the sources point directly to Vision 2030.
Right. And for anyone, maybe not following regional geopolitics closely, Vision 2030 is Saudi Arabia's massive, overarching blueprint to modernize the country.
Right.
It's the strategic pivot away from relying solely on oil, moving toward building a diversified economy driven by technology, private enterprise, and global tourism.
Exactly. And a foundational pillar of that blueprint is creating smart, connected, and highly convenient cities.
Which makes sense.
Right. I mean, think about it logistically. You cannot have a world-class, modernized business hub or a booming tourism sector if your residents and, more importantly, your visitors can't reliably and predictably get from point A to point B.
It makes me think of how we usually look at infrastructure development. Like normally, if a rapidly growing city wants to fix its transport bottlenecks, it spends 20 years and $50 billion digging tunnels for a massive new subway system.
Right, the traditional route.
Yeah, but this feels entirely different. It's like skipping the dial-up internet phase and going straight to gigabit fiber optics.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
By embracing ride-hailing at this scale, Saudi Arabia essentially built a decentralized, citywide transit network overnight, just utilizing the cloud and private vehicles.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that decentralized transit network eliminates every historical point of friction that used to stifle movement.
Oh, totally.
Remember the old way? Hoping a car is there, wondering if the driver has changed for a large bill.
Trying to explain complex directions in a neighborhood you don't even know.
Exactly. And the underlying anxiety of what that meter's going to say when you finally arrive.
Oh, the meter anxiety was universal. The apps flipped that entire script.
They really did.
They offer 24/7 availability. They offer upfront pricing, so the financial surprise is completely gone.
Which is huge.
Right. There's real-time vehicle tracking and seamless cashless payment options. For a business traveler touching down in Dammam or a tourist trying to find a specific historical site, this provides instant, frictionless infrastructure.
Which brings us to the inevitable turf war.
Yes, the turf war.
Because when you create a perfectly frictionless environment with a $12 billion valuation, everybody wants a slice.
Naturally.
The global heavyweight apps swooped in immediately.
Yeah.
Assuming their standard playbook would just dominate.
Yeah, but what they found was a market that demanded serious localization, right? And they are now engaged in a fierce battle against deeply embedded, homegrown champions.
So what does this all mean? The dynamic here is fascinating because you have to wonder where the vulnerabilities are.
Let's look at the global players first. You have Uber, which obviously brings that instant international trust.
Right, the brand recognition.
Exactly. If you fly into Riyadh from London, New York, or Tokyo, you already have the app on your phone. Your credit card is linked. You just press a button.
It's familiar.
But Uber realized really quickly that treating Riyadh exactly like London leaves a massive blind spot. Our sources highlight that they introduced a women's preferences feature in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it allows female riders to specifically request female drivers.
It's a very smart adaptation to the specific cultural and demographic realities of the region.
Definitely.
But Uber is actually facing stiff competition from a brand they acquired, which is Careem.
Right, Careem.
Careem is an absolute titan in the Middle East. They operate in the major business hubs, but crucially, they also deeply serve Makkah and Medina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and their Hail a Taxi option is noted in our sources as being generally cheaper for standard rides. So they've earned this massive reputation for everyday reliability.
And then there's Bolt.
Yes, Bolt.
They have European origins, but they are making serious waves, especially in the Makkah province. Bolt seems to be playing the aggressive challenger role against the established giants.
How so?
Well, the sources show they are heavily utilizing promo codes and regular discounts specifically to court younger riders and the daily budget-conscious commuter.
Going for the high-frequency user.
Exactly. Oh, and a quick side note for anyone planning a trip. The sources explicitly state that the standard Lyft app does not operate in Saudi Arabia.
Good to know. So those are the global and regional giants fighting for the premium and tourist dollars.
Right.
But the vulnerability they left behind is scale outside the major metropolitan centers.
Yeah.
And the local pioneers saw that gap and drove right through it.
Take Kaiian, for example.
Right.
Spelled K-A-I-I-A-N, though you sometimes see it as Kaiian. Founded in 2016, they have massive local pride.
They do.
But here is the thing that really jumped out at me from the sources. They aren't just operating in Riyadh, Jeddah, and Dammam.
No.
No. Kaiian has a footprint in over 60 Saudi cities.
60.
60 cities.
That level of localized scale is incredible. While the globals focus on the high-margin airport runs, Kaiian is quietly blanketing the entire country.
But wait, I have to stop you there, because 60 cities sounds great on a press release. But how does an independent app actually survive that kind of cash burn?
It's tough.
Right. Like, how do you maintain enough active drivers to keep wait times down in a tiny rural town where maybe only 20 people need a ride on a Tuesday? Sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It is a massive challenge, but it really comes down to capturing commuter routes between smaller hubs rather than just intracity travel.
Oh, I see.
By being the only reliable option in those secondary and tertiary cities, Kaiian captures extreme brand loyalty. The drivers aren't full-time professionals sitting idle.
Right, they're just normal people.
Exactly. They're locals monetizing their own daily commutes between these towns. It's a completely different operational model than a dense urban grid.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. They own the spaces the global apps ignore.
Exactly.
And then you have Jeeny. They used to be known as Easy Taxi before rebranding to better fit the local market.
I remember that.
Yeah, and they completely dominate the budget-friendly short-distance trips. But the detail that really stands out is their sustainability initiative. They have publicly committed to a goal of 50% electrification of their fleet by 2028.
Which is an incredibly aggressive timeline.
Right. I mean, 2028 is right around the corner.
It really is.
How does a budget ride-hailing app achieve a 50% EV fleet in a country historically built on incredibly cheap gasoline? Is the charging infrastructure even there to support thousands of electric taxis constantly on the move?
This is where we have to circle back to Vision 2030. Jeeny isn't doing this in a vacuum.
Right, the government incentive.
Exactly. The government is heavily incentivizing the transition to green technology. By aligning their corporate goals directly with the national environmental goals of Vision 2030, Jeeny is future-proofing their business.
That makes sense.
They are positioning themselves to potentially benefit from infrastructure subsidies, preferred access to charging networks, or even municipal partnerships. It's a classic battle of global standardization versus localized integration.
Right. The massive global ships might struggle to steer their fleets toward EVs quickly, but a nimble local player can pivot and align with the government's trajectory. That is a fascinating strategy. But because this market is so saturated, I mean, we've already listed 5 major players and we're barely scratching the surface. Just being a reliable app with electric cars isn't enough to survive anymore.
No, you need something extra.
You have to stand out in the App Store. And to do that, these platforms are carving out hyper-specific niches, particularly when it comes to passenger safety and specialized vehicle types.
The evolution of safety protocols within these newer platforms is particularly striking. We've moved far beyond the basics.
Exactly. Let's look at Jameel, founded in Riyadh in 2021. They have your standard, eco, and premium tiers, sure.
Right.
But then they offer this feature called Jameel Live. It is a unique service that utilizes actual real-time live streaming of the ride for added passenger security.
What's fascinating here is how the definition of safety is escalating.
Yeah.
5 years ago, the pinnacle of ride-sharing safety was a little blue GPS dot moving on a digital map that you could share with a friend.
Totally.
Now, we are talking about live streaming the interior of the vehicle.
It's wild.
And going back to Bolt for a second, the sources note they recently implemented audio recording as an opt-in safety measure. It shows an absolute arms race in passenger security.
But let's look at the mechanics of that, because it sounds like a data storage nightmare.
Oh, sure.
With Bolt's audio recording, how does that actually work without turning the car into a surveillance state?
Well, the mechanics are designed entirely around encrypted edge computing.
Okay.
When a passenger or driver activates the audio recording, the file is heavily encrypted and stored solely on the user's local device, not immediately uploaded to a cloud server.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so neither the driver nor the passenger can actually listen to the playback. The only way that encrypted file gets unlocked is if a formal safety incident is reported to Bolt's customer support.
Right.
At which point they possess the digital key to access the audio.
So it's like a digital black box for the car.
Exactly.
That solves the storage issue, but it still highlights a really delicate balance between optimal passenger security and in-ride privacy. As a rider, you want to feel completely safe, especially late at night. But does a live video feed or a hot microphone change the dynamic of the ride? You can't exactly have a confidential phone call in the back seat if you know you're being recorded.
It definitely alters the social contract of the vehicle. And it's a behavioral question these companies are actively testing in the market right now.
And it's not just digital safety niches. Taxa is an app that took a totally different route.
Right, Cax.
They are focused entirely on digitizing the traditional physical public taxi service. They ensure all the professional drivers have vehicles physically equipped with hardwired GPS, mounted cameras, and actual emergency panic buttons.
Which is a very tangible form of safety.
Exactly. But honestly, my favorite niche play has to be the newest player on the board, Taxi.
Founded in July 2023, their go-to-market strategy is brilliant because of what they chose not to do.
Right. They looked at the bloodbath of the 5-minute quick commute market and said, no thank you. If you just want to go to the grocery store down the street, Cha-Cha isn't even trying to win your business. Instead, they focus heavily on intercity travel.
Which is a huge market.
Huge. They serve over 20 major airports and specifically target religious pilgrimage transportation across more than 40 locations.
Right.
And to accommodate that, they don't just use standard 4-door sedans. They utilize fleets of much larger vehicles like SUVs, passenger vans, and minibuses.
It's a masterclass in segmentation.
Yeah.
They realize that group travel and long-haul trips require completely different logistics, and they build an app explicitly for that use case.
Here's where it gets really interesting for the consumer. It makes the Saudi taxi app ecosystem feel less like a public utility and much more like a streaming service subscription model.
How do you mean?
Well, you don't just have one streaming app anymore, right? You have one for prestige dramas, one for live sports, one for classic movies.
Oh, I see.
Similarly, you don't just use one ride app. You pick the specific genre for your day. You open Cha-Cha when you need a minibus for a family pilgrimage. You open Jeeny for a cheap ride to the cafe. And you use Jameel Live if you are traveling late at night and want that streaming security.
That streaming analogy is perfect. The user is essentially curating a folder of specialized apps on their phone to solve highly specific logistical challenges.
Exactly.
But as we move further down our source list, we start seeing platforms that aren't just finding niches. They are tearing up the traditional ride-hailing rulebook entirely.
Yeah, they are.
They're blurring the lines of what constitutes a taxi app in the first place.
Okay, this part of the sources blew my mind. Let's talk about indrive.
Right, indrive.
Every other app we've mentioned, and basically every app globally, uses a centralized algorithm to set the price. The computer looks at distance, traffic, demand, driver supply, and spits out a number. Take it or leave it.
Right, standard search pricing.
But indrive completely removes the algorithm's fixed pricing. Instead, the passenger inputs what they are willing to pay, and the drivers nearby can accept it, counteroffer, or ignore it.
It's wild.
You negotiate the fare directly, in real time, right there in the app.
It essentially introduces a digital bazaar element to the transaction. And our sources point out that this model is incredibly popular during the Umrah season in Medina.
We should define that, because Umrah isn't just a busy weekend.
No, not at all.
Umrah is an Islamic pilgrimage to Makkah and Medina that can be undertaken at any time of the year. It creates these massive, unpredictable surges in transient populations.
Exactly. You might have tens of thousands of pilgrims suddenly exiting a holy site at the exact same moment.
Which breaks the algorithm.
Standard surge pricing algorithms absolutely break under that kind of localized extreme pressure.
Yeah.
The prices skyrocket so high that nobody can afford a ride, and drivers just get stuck in gridlock.
Right.
By removing the algorithm, indrive lets the market stabilize itself. It gives the passenger a feeling of control over their budget and gives the driver the agency to only accept fares that make sense for the time it will take them to navigate the traffic.
That makes perfect sense for extreme surges. But then you have an app like Rila.
Right, Rila is interesting.
It started as an intercity ride-sharing app connecting people traveling between major cities, but then they expanded into parcel delivery.
Wow.
Yeah, you can post a request, and a Rila driver will securely deliver your package to another city since they are driving there anyway.
That's super efficient.
And if that wasn't enough, tourism experts are now actually using the Rila platform to create, market, and book customized regional tours for travelers.
We also have to mention the back-end infrastructure side of this mutation. The sources highlight platforms like Enatega.
Enatega, right.
They exist specifically to provide white label solutions.
Which means what, exactly?
For anyone unfamiliar, a white label solution is basically like Shopify, but for taxi apps.
Oh, got it.
They provide a complete pre-built software architecture. This allows independent local businesses to launch their own ride-sharing apps under their own branding without needing to hire a massive team of software engineers.
Wow.
Yeah, it lowers the barrier to entry to almost zero.
Okay, I have to call a timeout here. I want to push back on this idea of a mutating ecosystem.
Okay.
Because to me, this doesn't sound like evolution. It sounds like an unregulated, chaotic mess.
How so?
If I have an app on my phone that makes me haggle over a price, like I'm at a street market, and it's also acting as a post office to deliver my parcels, and I'm supposed to use it to book a custom guided tour of historical ruins, aren't they just going to fail at all of those things?
It's a valid point.
If you try to be a logistics company, a taxi fleet, and a tourism board all at once, your user experience is going to be a disaster.
It's a very valid concern, and it's the risk of the super app model. When you try to be everything, you risk the core functionality getting buried under a cluttered interface. But from the platform's perspective, they are looking at customer acquisition costs. It costs a fortune to get a user to download an app and input their credit card.
Right.
Once you have that real estate on their phone, you have to maximize the lifetime value of that user.
Make them open the app more.
Exactly. If Rila only offers intercity rides, a user might open the app twice a year. If they add parcel delivery and tourism, suddenly that user opens the app twice a month.
Okay, I see.
They are betting that the convenience of a centralized logistics hub outweighs the clutter.
I suppose if the interface is clean enough, it could work. But if we really want to talk about mutating business models that challenge the user experience, we have to look at the absolute wildest detail the sources revealed about indrive.
Ah, yes, the leap into autonomous vehicles.
Yeah. The sources explicitly note that indrive is partnering with AI Driver and WeRide to launch fully autonomous ride-hailing fleets in Riyadh, specifically to align with the technological ambitions of Vision 2030.
Which is huge.
But let's think about this logically. indrive's entire core identity, the thing that made them famous during Umrah season, is peer-to-peer, real-time negotiation, haggling.
This raises an important question. How exactly do you negotiate a fare with a robot?
Right. If the car pulling up to the curb doesn't have a human inside, who am I bidding against?
That's a great point.
If I offer $5 for a ride and the AI counters with $7, it's not a negotiation anymore. The AI knows my entire user history.
Oh, definitely.
It knows how much I usually tip. It knows my maximum willingness to pay based on previous rides, and it can calculate the exact cost of electricity for the route. I'm not haggling in a bazaar. I'm walking into a trap set by a supercomputer.
It's a brilliant paradox. Does an AI dynamically adjust its acceptable price parameters based on traffic patterns
Mhm.
to mimic a human driver?
Maybe.
Or does it completely ruin the psychological satisfaction of the bizarre feeling?
Mm.
Because when you haggle with a human, you both walk away feeling like you reached a fair compromise.
Nice.
When you haggle with an algorithm, you just feel like you've been subjected to dynamic surge pricing with extra steps.
Exactly. It defeats the whole premise of the app. It feels like we are watching the future of transport being written and rewritten in real time. The pace of change is just dizzying.
It really is.
So, to bring it all together for you listening, if you are living in Saudi Arabia or planning a visit anytime soon, choosing a ride app is no longer just a default tap on your screen.
Not at all.
It is a highly personal, strategic decision. You need to check the city coverage first. Maybe you need Kaiian if you're outside the major hubs.
Right.
Then you weigh your priorities. Do you want to aggressively hunt for the absolute lowest fare for a short trip? You probably want to open Jeeny or Bolt.
Definitely.
Do you want premium, globally standardized reliability? Look at Careem or Uber. Or do you need a highly specialized service like intercity parcel delivery from Rayla, the capacity of a Cha-Cha minibus, or the live streaming security of Jamil?
It's all about what you need in that specific moment.
Exactly. The entire infrastructure of a nation is now entirely in the palm of your hand.
It is a vibrant, incredibly diverse ecosystem. And as these technologies mature and converge, it's only going to get more complex and more tailored to the individual user.
Absolutely. Well, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the sources behind Saudi Arabia's ride-hailing revolution.
But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Oh, okay.
We talked about apps like indrive rolling out autonomous AI fleets, and Rila designing custom regional tours. As this technology accelerates over the next decade, will the future of Saudi transport completely remove the human driver from the equation?
That's a big question.
Right. As the software gets smarter, will these apps evolve from simply ride-hailing platforms into fully automated self-driving personal concierges that not only drive you, but plan your itinerary, handle your logistics, and guide your entire journey?
It's a wild thought. Because the next time you imagine stepping onto that sun-drenched street in Riyadh or Jeddah,
Yeah.
you won't be waving down a car. You'll just be tapping a screen, and the car that silently glides up to the curb to greet you might not even have a steering wheel.